Good
Yes,
afternoon.
good afternoon. Yes. Um, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to BVI Market Connect. We're thrilled you decided to spend part of your day with us, or whether you're tuning in from your desk, your couch, or somewhere pretending to be on lunch, we see you. Today, we are hosting one of our favorite markets, the United Kingdom. And we have an incredible lineup for today's session. Joining us is our very own UK General Manager, Odelsa Hanley, along with two of our brilliant agency reps and market experts, Lucinda Buxton and Elena Ferguson. And we're excited to welcome a special guest, Mags Longstaff from Tropical Sky, one of the UK's top tour operators. So you know we're in for some good insights today. And before we dive in, a quick plug. Our accommodations booking and occupancy survey is currently open. We'd really appreciate it if you take a few minutes to fill it out. It helps us understand how things are going across the industry, and honestly, your feedback makes a big difference. Consider it your good deed for today. So now I'll turn over to you, Odelsa. Please take it away.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone. As Feliza said, today we will be discussing the UK market and how to best work with the trade. So we'll start off on the tourism board's mission, basically, which is to raise the profile of the destination. And what I'll do is go through a slide presentation explaining why it is important to work with the trade and how to best do it, as well as give some advice on the legal side of things. And with us, as Feliza mentioned, we have Miss Mags Longstaff from Tropical Sky to also give her input on the best way to go about working with the trade. So I'm going to share my screen and let's go in presentation format. All right, this is our team. I'm Odelsa Hanley. We also have Mr. Kyle Harrigan and Mrs. Marvina Jaraya representing the BVI Tourist Board team here in the UK market. So just to give a brief overview, in May we spoke about the market itself and why UK consumers would be of interest to you. So just to reiterate that the UK market has a very strong interest in long haul travel. They spend well on their trips. They're very loyal to destinations. Whenever we have consumer events or we speak to our colleagues, they would tell us how many times particular clients would visit the BVI. Last 2 weeks ago, we went to Southampton International Boat Show and we met quite a number of people who have said this their 14th visit or they visit 2 times a year, and that just gives you a general idea of their commitment to revisiting a destination that they have grown fond of. Some of the UK traveler preferences included booking through a trusted agent and tour operators. They also prefer value packages and travel with ATOL protection. We'll go into that as we progress through the presentation, and some of the opportunities to market to the UK audience is the winter sun, which is a November to April time period, as well as school holidays. Now, UK travelers, as mentioned before, they book through tour operators, travel agents, and tailor-made travel companies, basically putting the onus on the travel companies to assist them with their booking. They prefer to go that way because of the convenience, the support, and the financial protection. Whenever a consumer book with a travel company, and that includes the flight, they have ATOL protection. Working with the trade, why work with the UK trade? You have access to a broader market. You get longer booking windows. As you know, travel agents and tour operators, they would put out availabilities for accommodations ahead, maybe a year in advance, and that would give you the opportunity to fill certain time periods of the year for your accommodations or your business. And with that, there are certain expectations that the trade would require from suppliers. Contracts that are both fair and clear on what the expectations are in terms of refunds, payment terms, the rates, deposits, and being clear in your communication as well as effective. As we discussed in May, whenever the tour operators or travel agents, when they reach out and they request, whether it is an update on availability or certain amenities, the requirement or the expectation is that you would respond in a timely manner because, of course, they're working with clients who are trying to narrow down or nail down their holiday plans. And of course, flexibility. There are some instances where things happen, and the travel agents, tour operators, they would expect some sort of flexibility in extreme circumstances in terms of whether their client's booking be changed to another time or a refund based on, of course, the contract terms. Packaging your product. First of all, what makes the BVI a unique product? Off the beaten path, of course, we are the undisputed sailing capital of the Caribbean and barefoot luxury. And how do you package your product? For tour operators, travel agents, clear rates, which includes the room type, the inclusions and amenities of your property or product itself. This helps tour operators to better sell and promote your product. Collaborating with DMCs and other tourism stakeholders for unique experiences. If you're a hotelier, you can partner with a charter company or one of the experiences companies on island or in the destination to add a different type of amenity, offer optional extras such as whether it's games for the kids or certain types of activities, an add-on that would be great for packaging for the consumer. And of course, imagery. We're always interested and we need good professional photos, videos to help sell your product. Now, what is ATOL protection and flexibility? ATOL is basically an acronym for Air Travel Organizers Licenses, and it is the UK financial protection scheme for package holidays, and that is for all packages that are sold with flights. So whenever UK clients, they book their holidays, they usually book the flight along with their accommodations. And because of with that package, it is required that travel agents and tour operators have the ATOL protection. Now, it is important because tour operators can only sell their packages if suppliers like you agree to certain flexibilities. Um, and the travelers, of course, prefer to book ATOL backed holidays because it gives them a peace of mind in case something happens. They know that their protection is basically in place for whether it's change in the booking or some incident. And what you can do as a supplier to help with making the ATOL protection and the process with the tour operators easier, to understand the obligation that the tour operators and travel agents have to their clients, to allow for late payment or cancellation flexibility, and to understand that flexibility means more exposure in listings. So when you work with a tour operator and a travel agent and they have an experience with you, working with clients of theirs who may have had to make a change to their holiday, they understand that this change may not have been the easiest thing for you as a supplier, but in your flexibility, they're able to work with you for future clients and understand that you are willing to assist in case of emergencies or incidents. The trade needs and support from your end, as mentioned before, professional images, accurate descriptions of the accommodations, the amenities. All of this helps with promoting your product. Team support, timely responses, cannot reiterate that enough, as well as fam trips, training, and materials. All of these help with the trade partners understanding and being more comfortable with your property to sell it to their clients. Rates connectivities, these include channel managers and B2B platforms like booking.com, Expedia, etc. And these just help with whenever you make a change to your rates, whether it is if you have a dynamic rating in place, rates system in place, sorry, that helps to, it automatically updates on the tour operators and for, easy access for them to make a quote. Um, and that is basically it on my end. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but if are there any questions? I do want to hand over to Mags just to ask a few questions that we've received as a tourist board on working with tour operators like yourself in promoting smaller properties in particular. And one of the questions that we get is, how do you package for a UK consumer? How can one of our hoteliers package their product for UK consumer in your experience?
Okay, so hello everybody. So packaging the overall holiday is quite a straightforward process. Basically, we're looking for the flights, we're looking for transfer provision, and we're looking for the accommodation. To be able to be an accommodation partner within that, or perhaps a sailing partner or a cruise partner, then we need to have flexible terms, as Adelta has gone through and explained, flexibility in terms of how we secure those rates, which I guess is a slightly different subject. In terms of then packaging, we are simply looking for the best possible accommodation rate, best possible transfer rate, best possible flight rate for that customer. At times, we will book those services for customers out of date range. So flights typically are available within approximately 300 days, 320 odd days. Some airlines are not available beyond that, so we will secure those flights for the customer on their behalf beyond that time, because they're keen on securing their accommodation a long way out, usually much further than the flight ranges are available. To give you an indication, whilst the Caribbean for us typically books about 8 to 9 months ahead of time. That's a strong mix of some people booking within 3 or 4 months, but a lot of people booking towards 18 months out, which is way ahead of a lot of other markets. For that reason, we need flexibility. Things can change, plans can change. When we say flexibility, we're not saying the majority of customers want to cancel their plans completely. That's very, very rare. Our cancellation rate is a tiny percent, 1 to 2%. It's a really, really small amount of our business that cancels. And if a customer does cancel, it's usually quite late on within cancellation terms of all parties, and something that their insurance can usually get involved with. It's usually a health issue or something. So the main challenge that we have with, and this is a particular issue, I think, for the British Virgin Islands, which is why Adelsa has asked me to join, are the terms that are required for net rates, and perhaps the understanding of net rates and the way the UK market works. So because our customers are booking as a package, so we're joining together the flight, at least the flight and the accommodation, and generally some kind of transport in between the two. We need to provide some sort of flexibility, and we have to abide by government regulations, which tend not to exist in every market. So I'm not up to speed with every market around the world, but I know in the US, for example, the regulations aren't as strict in terms of how an organizer might provide travel. A travel agent, for example, might provide travel plans for a customer as in the UK. So for us to be a tour operator, we must have an ATOL license, which means we make a payment for every booking to the government, and I'll have a sufficient credit rating with the government. It's the easiest way of explaining it, to allow us to operate those holidays. They look at the volume of holidays we want to offer, the style of holidays we want to offer, and the exposure on offering those holidays to then approve whether or not you're able to receive an ATOL license. As Adelsa said, customers look for that. The government are very strong at advertising the importance of that license. And so if they're going to make their plans, they are looking for reputable tour operators and travel agents who can provide them with financial protection. And that is protection that if we as a tour operator went out of business, their holiday is protected. They're not going to lose their money. So either another tour operator will be brought in to look after and service those holidays, in which case all the money they've passed to us would pass to them. If insufficient money at that point is passed to us, it's just a deposit. The booking passes on to the other tour operator. The holiday carries on as normal. There's no issue. There's no problem. If a hotel is owed money by that tour operator, the government makes sure that hotel receives their money. So there's protection for all parties involved, and that's a huge issue in terms of reassuring the customer, but it should also reassure you as suppliers, because you know that if anything was to happen to us, then your booking is protected in the same way as the customer's money is protected. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the main things, if we go on to the kind of the licensing bit and the deposit bit and all those elements. So I think the main challenge, and I've spoken to some of my tour operator colleagues as well, but since Delta spoke to me, in terms of the challenges they have, they're very, very similar. In that, particularly in the Virgin Islands, there are requirements for quite high deposits, sometimes full payment at the point of booking. Now, if somebody is going to make a full payment at the point of booking, there's no point in them coming to a tour operator. They may as well do it themselves. They're putting all of their money down straight out. There's no benefit to having us in the mix. If you want to attract more business through a UK tour operator or travel agent, then presumably there is an element of your business model that needs that business, that's looking for more business, isn't filling up the hotel direct, etc. So we're here to help you, but we have to be able to work on flexible terms and have some flexibility in the way that we offer things. The way the UK differs slightly from some of the other markets is, I think, probably best compared to if you're booking and paying for a flight, for example, in the States. If you book for a flight, as far as I'm aware, you pay for that flight straight off. Doesn't matter when you're traveling, you pay in full, your money's down, the airline has got your money. In the UK, if you book through a tour operator, we book the flight and then we're given a deferred ticketing deadline. So we can book that flight, hold those seats off for that customer, so they're fully booked, but we don't have to produce the tickets and therefore pay the airline for that flight until about 6 weeks prior to travel. And then we have a deferred payment, like a credit agreement, where we get about 4 weeks payment bank. So there's probably about 2 weeks of risk in terms of between the customer traveling and the monies being passed over to the airline. The importance with that is that with a regulation, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. With the ATOL regulations, we are obliged to cover to have a cover of 70% of the value of any holiday at any time. So we are not allowed to pass the customer's cash onto any other party, ideally until that customer's come back from their holiday. Now, that's quite an extreme situation. We're generally trying to be more flexible with that, but we would generally, typically around the world, either work on a credit basis with hoteliers. Our bigger partners would have a credit basis and would pay on the customer's return, or 7 to 14 days prior to travel, perhaps, where the ticketing is agreed, the customer's going ahead, everything's planned, everything's booked, everything's good to go. When that happens, there's just maybe say a 2-3 week period when we've then paid out all the money to the hotel, to the airline, to the transfer organizer. But most reputable tour operators can bridge that gap for a couple of weeks. That's not a big deal in terms of how we could then manage that financial risk element that we are required to hold by the regulations. If we have to make a deposit payment very, very early, and a significant deposit payment very, very early, then we have to manage that 70% risk in a different way. So effectively, if you ask us for a 50% deposit, 6 months prior to travel, we're going to have to ask the customer for even more than that to manage that 70% risk profile. It gets a bit complicated, but the main point is that for us to organise packages and to promote packages everywhere that we work with around the world, generally I'd say 99% of partners that we work with offer those flexible terms because they understand the regulations that we are working with, but that protects them as much as it protects us. So there's less risk on them in terms of doing that because the booking is protected, their monies are protected, the customers' monies are protected throughout the whole thing. And I think an important comparison here, Adelsa highlighted the great reasons to go to the British Virgin Islands. It's #1 in the Caribbean for sailing, beautiful island hopping, amazing itineraries. As a UK customer, you're up against people doing that in the Whitsundays, people doing that in the Maldives, people doing that around Thailand, people doing that around the Seychelles. So there are a lot more destinations they can choose to do that. If they come to us and we say, yes, we can put this amazing itinerary together, but we need you to give us 70% of the entire money now, 8 months before you travel, they're going to say, oof, I'm not too sure about that. I don't want to place that risk now. They might do nearer travel, but they don't want to do it right now. My understanding of where the US market sits at the moment, and I think that's probably the primary market for the British Virgin Islands these days, is they're not even considering making those bookings at that point far ahead. So the decision point for the British Virgin Island hotelier is, do you want nice early bookings coming in to fill your resorts 8-9 months prior, maybe even 18 months prior to travel, so you can see how that booking curve is coming in and get some nice early business on the books? Or are you happy with all the business coming in within 4 or 5 months? In which case, we can still do that, but we wouldn't want to be putting down, or we wouldn't be able to put down a customer's deposit. The customer wouldn't be happy with putting down a deposit that far in advance of travel. I hope that kind of makes sense and shapes the overall picture.
Yes, that does. Thank you very much, Mags. You mentioned the net rates and what the deposit would, what we've had challenges with the deposit request. Now, what would be your recommendation? And I'm not sure if this is a case by case basis, but what would be your recommendation for an average deposit that hoteliers would agree to typically for the Caribbean in general?
Well, the Caribbean in general, there's no deposits.
Okay.
Deposits generally aren't a thing. There are some hotels that will require a deposit. The deposit is normally not actually required at the point of booking. It's required maybe slightly earlier than a typical payment plan, I think, often to tie into the US market. If it is required at the point of booking, then it's often refundable, which I kind of find a little bit odd. Why need a deposit if it's refundable? But that's the sort of deposit we would potentially agree with. But we would hold that deposit because then we are holding that client cash, and we would then build into our contracts an agreement that if a customer voluntarily cancels their trip within the cancellation terms, that deposit will be handed over to the hotel. But we need to hold that because we're not allowed to release customer funds that far in advance of travel. So deposits at hotel level are rare. They honestly are very rare. The hotels that like to rely on isn't the right word, but like to attract business through the UK trade, through UK tour operators, simply don't have deposit terms. I think when it comes to payment terms, obviously we all like credit, but we're sensible. We're of business size where we understand that's not what everyone is up for these days. We would tend to pay most of our hoteliers in the Caribbean either on a credit basis or within 7 to 14 days of travel. We'd be comfortable about 30 days prior to travel. I say it goes to that balance of risk in terms of us not holding the customer's money and us being able to tide over that balance, because we basically have to inject that money into the business ourselves to cover that customer's money that we have given to the provider. So if something happens to the hotel or the airline or whatever, we're liable to be able to refund that customer's money in its entirety back to the customer. So the closer it is to travel, the more comfortable we are with the situation.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Max. I'm conscious of the time because the lovely ladies at the M Collective have to present. I'm not sure if there are any questions from the audience, but if you have any questions, please free to send us an email. If you would like to speak to Max directly, we can also share her contact details with you. If you would like more information on the UK tour operators and packages, how that can work for your product. So I will thank you again, Max,
It's a
and
pleasure.
I'll hand it over to Elena and Lucinda.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Adelsa, and thank you, Mags. I will just share my screen quickly so that you can see our presentation. Hopefully, let me just make it full screen. Hopefully that's starting to work for people. Can you see that, Adelsa?
Yes.
Perfect.
Can everybody
Okay.
see that? That's good. And it's marvelous because we can't see ourselves, which is a great relief. So just a quick introduction. We're the M Collective, and we've had the pleasure of working for a fair few years with the BVI. We really specialize, and always will, in luxury travel. We're based in London, and we really act as trusted advisors to our clients. And obviously, our job is to keep BVI top of mind, not only to the travel trade press, but to all the press. And to keep the story sparkling and relevant and give it the coverage that it deserves, the destination. I'm going to introduce you to the team, but one thing I want to say before we start, on a very positive note, which I want to share, is that there's been a lot of buzz recently in the UK press about how luxury travel, outbound luxury travel, is surviving post-COVID.
Thriving.
And thriving, in fact, surviving and thriving. And people are happy to forego that handbag or perhaps that designer dress or whatever, and they feel they can probably live, with last year's dresses and handbags, but they find actually they're saying under surveys and so on that travel is good for them. It's to do with wellness, it's restorative, it gives them quality time with their families, and they're not going to give it up. They'd rather give other things up, maybe the extra cocktail and so on. So let's hold that thought and move forward. Introducing you to the team, they're all listening. Well, Elena's sitting next to me. I'm the founder and managing director, and I sit back and the following three faces do the work. Elena has been 5 times to the BVI with press.
Yes.
We'll show you some of the results as we move forward through our slides. And I think you know it pretty well. She's very good on bars.
Very good on restaurants.
Very good on
and
restaurants.
hopping between different islands.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Sophie, who's listening in, is about to fly to the BVI week in
On
3 weeks' time,
6th of
6th
November.
of November, with 4 journalists. Well, 3.
3, a great press group.
Yeah, and it is going to be the next lucky one to go. And then Jazz, who's just joined us not too long ago, actually worked on Mosquito. That's where Elena met her, and that's how she's ended up with us. And so she knows the destination really well, and actually she was brought up in St. Lucia. So that's us. I'm going to hand you over to Elena to explain what we do.
Yes. So Lucinda will interject from time to time
Oh, yes,
if she's got some points.
Yes.
But in our last presentation in May, we ran through the general UK media, but this time we're going to give you a deep dive into trade media. To follow on from what Adelsa has said, so travel trade publications are aimed at professionals across the UK trade and tourism industry, including travel agents and tour operators, DMCs, hoteliers and airlines and cruise lines. The publications aim to inform, connect, and influence the UK travel trade, and then help businesses to sell, partner, and adapt to market change. They provide news, analysis, destination and product features, business intelligence, networking events and awards, and advertising and training platforms. Now, in our market, there are kind of 4 key travel trade publications. So we have Aspire, which is a luxury travel trade magazine and community for high-end agents and suppliers. It's part of the Travel Weekly group, and it's one of the publications that we work with the most regularly and the most closely. There's Travel Weekly, which is the UK's leading mainstream travel trade title. It covers all sectors of the travel trade industry through news, analysis, and events. TTG Luxury is another premium publication. It's a sub-brand of TTG Media, and it's focused on the luxury segment, offering a quarterly magazine, digital content and events for high-end travel professionals. And then Selling Travel is the 4th publication that we tend to work with. It's an independent bi-monthly trade magazine, which provides travel agents with destination insights, industry trends, and sales inspiration. So we've just delved into Aspire and TTG Luxury a little further here, as they're the ones that we work with the most regularly. So as we said, Aspire is a luxury travel trade magazine. It's published on a bi-monthly basis, and it showcases luxury properties and experiences across the world. So the magazine is sent out via controlled circulation to several thousand recipients. I think it's around 7,000 at the moment. So agents, sellers, and those in the hospitality industry, which is a great thing because it means that you're immediately targeting those that you really want to be speaking to.
And I'm going to interrupt. And 7,000 doesn't sound like a lot compared to perhaps a national newspaper or a national magazine like Condé Nast Traveller. But bear in mind that there's no wastage. With these very, very targeted and specialist publications, every single person who's picking it up is of interest to you.
Yeah, they have a vested interest in what the publication's talking about.
Yeah.
So in addition to the magazine, they also have a members-only website and a very engaged digital community. They've got a really nice Instagram account as well that keeps people up to date with news and events and what the Aspire team are up to.
They're incredibly active. And
They travel an awful lot. So they're very good people to follow.
Yeah.
In terms of events, they run a Leaders of Luxury event on an annual basis. So it takes place in June every year, and it's for senior executives in the travel industry. They also run an experience called The Retreat, which is a 4-day overseas event for selected travel sellers and suppliers. And the aim is to build relationships and experience the destinations firsthand. They have run 2 so far in 2025, most recently to Mexico. And before that, I think it was Corfu. They look like incredible experiences. I think it's quite tricky to get a place on one because they're so sought after. And then the Aspire Escapes are smaller UK-based overnight networking events, which are more relevant to the UK market, but it's just something to bear in mind. And then the Aspire Awards are an annual awards ceremony which celebrate excellence in the luxury travel trade. And this year, the awards are taking place on the 20th of November, so coming up soon. And we're really thrilled that the British Virgin Islands Tourist Board has been shortlisted in the Luxury Tourist Board of the Year category. So well done to the whole team on their video submission. It's really exciting news.
And Aspire, you've taken them to the BVI.
I've taken 2 members of the Aspire team to the BVI recently. I'll show you their coverage in some slides further down, but they're just a great contact to have. They are regularly posting about news and updates, and they do some beautiful hotel reviews and very large destination features.
And one of the key differences about these upscale publications, travel upscale publications, trade publications, is that they will go. They're very happy to go and to be invited to events where you're inviting trade, whereas the consumer press get a bit snooty about that, really. But these guys, and not only does the editorial team constantly work with tour ops and agents, they know them very well, and they're a sort of symbiotic community, really. So if you are in London holding an event for the trade, invite these guys. as well, because they will cover your party, and they'll be good people to have there. They all know each
Definitely.
other.
Yeah, definitely.
And
And then TTG Luxury is a quarterly premium travel trade industry publication which specialises in content for agents and buyers within the luxury travel industry. The magazine offers in-depth insights, destination features, and industry trends. They have multiple pages in each publication, in each issue, that covers the latest hotel openings and like new collaborations, anything newsy.
it's a very good-looking publication.
Yeah. They're both really nice.
Mm.
They've got like
Large
nice
format.
glossy matte pages, and
Yeah.
they're nice publications. So the TTG Luxury Travel Awards take place every year. This year it was held at Raffles London in February, and it honours the finest luxury travel designers, agencies, and suppliers, and recognises their outstanding achievements within the sector. The 2026 awards are taking place in March at the Chancery Rosewood, which is a brand new hotel and looks very lovely.
The American Embassy.
Yeah.
As was. Yeah.
Award categories are aimed at travel agents, hotel groups, cruise lines, and luxury operators. So if you think your property would be interested in entering the awards, it's definitely worth taking a look at the different categories available online. Each year they also run a TTG Luxury Travel Summit. So this year it's taking place at the Royal Lancaster in London in November. It's a half-day forum which is designed to connect leaders and innovators in the luxury travel sector, and it offers a platform for insightful discussions on the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities within luxury travel. So we've also just pulled together a slide to go over how best to work with trade media.
Yeah, and I think this will echo what you've already heard.
Yes, it will definitely
From
echo
Adelsa's
Adelsa's point.
Yeah.
So as an agency, we already have really strong editorial relationships with all of the travel trade teams. So it's really, really important that we're kept up to date with any news from the BVI, as we can then best pitch it or introduce the relevant people to the teams. So a good way to ensure extensive coverage is to offer exclusive insights or first looks. So for example, if you know that your hotel will be opening some new rooms, or it's a brand new hotel opening, it's a great opportunity to offer an interview with the general manager if it's something that they'd be comfortable with,
Or whoever.
or
Yeah.
another member of the team, an owner, anyone.
Yeah.
If you have some really interesting sustainability initiatives, it's always something that the magazines are open to covering, or bespoke experiences that really distinguish your property from others. As Adele says,
And just bounce ideas off us. If you
Yeah.
think it's you have an idea, we can tell you whether it will fly in this market. With
yeah, and as Adelsa said, providing high quality content, so providing professional photography, editorial style, so without people goes down really well in the UK market, but also some lifestyle imagery can complement it really well. Compelling storytelling and strong quotes from members of the hotel teams are really helpful for us. And they also tend to run pieces that are focused on experiential angles for affluent travellers. So anything unique that you think you're doing or really special, just please let us know so that we can keep it on file for pictures. Participating in media partnerships is also a great way to secure additional coverage. So whether that's sponsoring different awards, taking part in roundtables or events, if any of your team are based in the UK. So for example, Aspire's luxury agent dinners or TTG Luxuries events. We organise up to 2 group press trips a year, and trips on an individual basis as well. So that's a great opportunity to work with us to host media, so to host editors and writers at your properties so that they can experience them firsthand and include reviews within their publications. We'll typically try to have a variety of media on each trip, so maybe one person from a national newspaper, a couple of glossy magazines, and then we'll also try to host someone from a trade publication, so whether it's Aspire. Most recently, I hosted a freelance journalist who was writing for The Telegraph, but also did a lovely feature for Travel Weekly. It's just a great opportunity to get some people out there to the destination to see the properties as well. And to stay active in the conversation, So offering expert commentary for features on market trends, if that's something that your property is comfortable doing, and to share hotel insights.
Spokesperson, yeah.
Yeah, share hotel insights during panel discussions or trade events that are hosted by the media. Again, that's something that's more relevant for people that have members of the team based over in the UK, but yeah, it's a good opportunity. So we've just bullet pointed a couple of trade media considerations. So as Adelsa said, Caribbean focused coverage is typically limited to winter and spring issues. That's because in the UK, destination coverage is mostly centered around European trips from April to October, but that means that from November to March, they do tend to focus on long haul destinations, so the Caribbean, Asia, Australia. Trade publications will also prioritise featuring properties that agents can book through tour operators, which is something to keep in mind when deciding whether to work with tour operators.
Yeah, and it makes it easy to write about and easy to sell.
Yeah, especially when they're targeting agents who are also looking to work with different tour operators. So let's move on to the next slide. Here's some coverage examples. So this feature in Aspire was 8 pages. It also ran online, and it was off the back of hosting a journalist on a press trip in November 2024. She stayed at 2 different hotels and on board a catamaran and wrote widely about the destination, but then also produced dedicated hotel reviews for those properties, which was great to see. We also have a couple of other coverage examples in Travel Weekly and TTG Luxury. So Travel Weekly was off the back of the March 2025 group press trip. So the writer that I mentioned was writing for The Telegraph, also wrote for Travel Weekly. He also produced coverage in the Daily Mail and the Times. So there's a lot of benefits to hosting freelancers. Yeah, lots of coverage out of that one. And then the TTG Luxury coverage has come from sharing our news release, which we do every year for the British Virgin Islands. So please, if you have news, make sure to send it to us so that we can include it in our releases. And then, as mentioned, the Tourist Board are also nominated for an award in the Aspire Awards. So then there's just some coverage from that. Lots of lovely Aspire coverage following a writer joining our trip online. This coverage also ran across their social media and in newsletters, so it really does get pushed out far and wide. And this is another example of Aspire coverage from 2022 from a different group press trip. But it's just nice to see how in-depth the pieces are. You really do get a lot of coverage with the trade writers. So we've just popped our email address and contact details here. Please do keep in touch. It's really helpful for us to hear from you.
And yes, and if you have any questions at all, do email us. That email goes to all 4 of us, but Elena's very quick. She'll probably pick it up. And yes, and have a look at their websites, I think, as well.
Yeah,
definitely. TTG Luxury especially.
Yeah.
Luckily, there are only those 4, so we do have a really good relationship with them all.
Yeah.
So yes, just to say, to back up what Adelsa said, keep the information coming and the images as well. And we yes, information and as far out as possible. We can't really work with anything that if you've got a new restaurant opening in 2 weeks' time or, a week's time.
Yeah.
But if there could be at least 6 weeks to 2 months.
Or even if you don't have a confirmed opening date, but you can just give us a heads up that something new is coming.
And that it's new and that it's whatever the key angle is, that it's plant-based and has an amazing design, whatever it is. Just something to hang the story on. And we'll get it out there for you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. Any questions? We must have said everything. Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. If there are any questions, please feel free to write those in the chat box right here or the Q&A section of Teams. If you have any questions for Elena or Lucinda or Delsa, please go ahead and do so at this time. We'll give folks just a few minutes if they have something there. Okay. Oh, someone, brand manager said, thank you, ladies. Oh, yes, the Saber Rock. Oh, yes, Saber Rock. She said, thank you, ladies. Really informative and helpful from the Saber Rock team. Thank you.
Great.
I guess we answered everyone's questions, burning questions during our presentations.
Yes, like it seems so. It seems so. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of another BVI Market Connect, and what a fantastic session it has been. Big thank you to you, Odelsa.
Oh,
Thank you, Lucinda. Thank you, Elena, for sharing your experience and expertise and updates from the UK. And of course, thank you to Mags from Tropical Sky for giving us that all-important tour operator and travel agent perspective. Thank you to everyone. Oh, someone said, where will
Question.
Sophie be? Yes, where will
Visiting.
Sophie be visiting on her BVI itinerary?
Over to you.
Maybe we
So
could do that
parts-
private. Yeah,
Parts-
maybe.
yeah, we can do it private. I can I think I
Yes.
have the email address for Sabre, so I can send you an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can be, yes. So, yes, so Elena will reach out to Saba on the side there. Okay, okay, and okay. Right, she said, thank you. And
Mhm.
yes, and also thanks so much from King Garden Bay as well. And before we leave, I just want to say a quick reminder that our accommodations booking and occupancy survey is still open. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll see that it's right there. The survey link is there, and you can click right away into that occupancy survey. All the partners that are here on the call, if you haven't filled it out, please do. It's short and easy and helps us stay in tune with what's happening across the industry. We're not done yet. Tomorrow, we will move over to Italy to the final Market Connect in this series. And we'll be joined by our fabulous Avia Reps team, Marco Castaldi and Gabrielle Cavagliotti, who will be giving us the inside scoop on the Italian market and how we can keep wooing travelers from their region. So same time, same place. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and have a fantastic afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.